Hey guys, welcome to Math with Morgan. In today's video, we're going to be looking at topic number 2, which is rounding and estimating. Okay, so the objective of this tutorial is for you to learn how to use place value to round numbers to the nearest decimal place and to the nearest significant figures, and as well as estimate answers. So let's begin. So we're going to start off with rounding numbers to the correct decimal place. But before we go into that, we need to know what a decimal place is. The first decimal place is the first digit after the decimal point in a number read from the left to the right. For example, the number 5.723 has 7 as its first decimal place. The number that comes after this is 2, and that is called the decider. The decider plays a very important role in rounding numbers, so pay attention. Another example would be 0.9393, and we can see here that the second decimal place is going to be 3. The number which comes after it is 9, and that will be the decider. Okay. So let's look at an example of how we can round these numbers. So we're going to start off by rounding 5.723 to one decimal place. So 2 is the decider in this case, so it's less than 5. When the decider is less than 5, we're just going to round the 7 down, okay? We want to round to one decimal place, and remember the first decimal place had the number 7, so we have to round the 7 down, which means we don't add anything to the 7. Okay, so that would be 5.7 as our answer. In the second example, we have 0.9393, and we want to round this to 2 decimal places. Remember, the second decimal place was the number 3, but the decider was 9. When we have 5 or more in the decider, then we have to round the number up. So we have to round the 3 up by adding 1 to it. So here's the rule of thumb. When the decider is 5 or more, round up. When the decider is 4 or less, you round down. Okay, so our answer here is just going to be 0.94. Let's move on to rounding numbers to the nearest significant figures. Okay, now what is a significant figure or a significant digit? It's simply a digit that is the first known 0 digit in the number read from the left to the right. For example, 0.02309 has 2 as the first significant digit. So once you identify the first significant digit, the number which comes after it is the decider, which is 3 in this case. Another example, we have 7.0509, and in this case, 7 is the first significant digit, 0 is the second significant digit, and 5 is the decider. Now, let's take a look at some examples. Round 0.002309 to one significant figure. The first significant digit was 2, so it means 3 is the decider. So remember, 3 is less than 4, so we have to round down. In this case, our answer is going to be 0.002. So we did not have to add 1 to the 2. Next example, we have round 7.0509 to 2 significant figures. Okay, the second significant figure here is a 0. It means 5 is going to be the decider, just like we saw. Like I said, 5 or more, you have to round up. Since we have 5 as the decider, it means we're going to round the 0 up by adding 1 to it. And our answer in this case would just be 7.1. Okay, I hope that is understood. Now let's move on to estimating. We're going to use the knowledge of rounding numbers to estimate values of certain questions. Okay. By rounding to one significant figure, Example number 1. Work out an estimate for 31 times 9.97 divided by 0.519. 31 has 2 digits, so the first significant figure is 3. If you want to round up to one significant figure, it would just be 30. So we're going to round 9.97 to one significant figure. 9.97 is simply going to be 10 because the decider is 9 and that is above 5. So we have to add 1 to 9 and that will make it 10. In the denominator, we have 0.519. And in this case, 1 is the decider. 1 is less than 5, so we round our answer down to 0.5. And here is what we're going to have. 30 times 10 divided by 0.5. So we have estimated each of these values and it makes it much easier for us to work with. So now we have 30 times 10 divided by 0.5. 30 times 10 is 300. Then we divide that by 0.5. That will give us 300 times 2, and that would be 600. Example number 2. Work out an estimate for 4.23 times 11.48 divided by 7.7. Okay, so again, rounding these numbers to one significant figure. Well, the 4.23 is just going to be 4 since the 2 is less than 5. 11.48 is going to be 10 because 1 is still less than 5, so we have to round down. And lastly, 7.7 would be an 8. It will round up to 8 because the 7 over there is higher than 5. So we get 4 times 10 divided by 8, and that would be 40 divided by 8, and our answer is 5. Okay, let's take a look at this word problem. It's a two-part question. So, example 3a says, Margaret has some cows. The cows produce an average total of 21.7 liters of milk per day for 280 days. Margaret sells the milk in half-liter bottles. Work out an estimate for the total number of bottles that Margaret will be able to fill with the milk. The first thing we want to do is work out the amount of milk they will produce in 280 days. So we see that 21.7 liters of milk are produced per day. It means we're just going to have to multiply 21.7 by 280 to get the total amount of milk produced in the 280 days. Now, she sells the milk out in half-liter bottles. So she takes the total amount of milk produced and divides it up into half-liter bottles. So the next step for us would be to take this amount and divide by 0.5. So this would be 21.7 times 280 divided by 0.5. Since we're trying to get an estimate over here, each of these values would be rounded. So 21.7 would just be 20. 280 would be rounded up to 300, and 0.5 remains 0.5. Okay, that's much easier to work with. So we're going to have 6,000 divided by 0.5. Again, when you're dividing by 0.5, it's the same as multiplying by 2. So this will give our answer, which is 12,000 bottles. Okay, now moving on to the second part of this question. It says, is your answer an overestimate or an underestimate? Give reasons why. Okay, for us to know, we're just going to work out the actual value without estimating, and then we compare both of them. The actual value would be 21.7 times 280 divided by 0.5. If you use your calculators, you would get 12,152 bottles. And this right here shows that our answer was an underestimate. So let's take a look at the next example. Example 4. Miley has a water tank for storing rainwater. The tank is in the shape of a cylinder with radius 31 centimeters and height 97.5. If the tank is full of water, work out an estimate for the volume of water in the tank. Okay, We can start off by representing the tank, which is in the form of a cylinder, like this. Then we have the dimensions given to us, a height of 97.5 and a radius of 31. So we need to know the volume, the formula for working out volume of a cylinder, and that is just going to be pi radius square height. Okay, so we're going to plug in each of these values that we have. We have the volume, which will be equal to pi times 31 squared times 97.5. But since we need just estimates, we need to round each of these numbers to one significant figure. 31 is just going to be 30, and then 97 is going to be 100. Now we just work this out. 30 squared is going to be 900, so we do 900 times 100 times pi, and our answer will be 90,000 pi cubic centimeters. Okay, it has been given to us that 1,000 centimeters cube is equal to a liter, so we just have to convert our answer to liters by dividing by 1,000. So our volume would be 90 pi cubic centimeters. Let's try another example. This is a little different. It says, work out an estimate for the square root of 495 plus 2.16 times 7.25. As we can see here, we need to round each of these numbers to one significant figure again. You're going to have 500 plus 2 times 7. And then we have the square root of 514, which will be 22.67. That's it about this video. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to give me a thumbs up as it supports the channel. And if you have any